So today we want to continue from where we started in our last class. In our last class, we looked at plops. We started plops. So let's continue from there. But before we do that, let's first look at how to pass events here in uh, React.js. How to pass events in React.js. So we are going to do something. Let me remove all this child component, everything about this child for now. We just focus on this parent component app.js. These are our focus for tonight. So we want to pass an event. Let's add an input. So when the user types inside this input, we want to get what is in this input. So you can use on key up, on key down. You can use on input also. On input, you can call on the function called get input. So when the user types inside this, it's going to call on the function called get input. Let's get the function together. So you want to get what is inside this input. In that case, you can automatically put events here. Do you understand?
Yes.
This function has events on it by default. It has events on it. So I can now say console log events. So when we get to the browser, as we type inside this input, it will log events to the console. So also let me start it, npm start, sorry. Okay. So here's my console. I hope you can see the console.
Yes, boss.
Okay. So as I type inside this place, you see it's logging the event to the console. So as we did in JavaScript, we can now do event.target.value. We did something like this in JavaScript, have you know?
Yes.
Okay. So save it, go to the browser now. So as we type inside it, it's logging the value to the console. I hope you understand.
Yeah. Can you come again, sir? Sorry.
In JS, when we did JS, JavaScript, we know that we can pass events like this by using this event keyword, Abi. But I'm now telling us that by writing a function like this, it automatically has events on it, and we can receive it. Just by writing a function name, you can receive events, and you can log it to you can do whatever you want to do with it. Now let's now assume that function is also passing another argument to event. You know, it's possible. Maybe I want to, for instance, this increment is passing 5 already, but we also want it to pass events. Do you get it? You know, you can pass 2 arguments. You can pass more than 1. In this case, you're only passing 1. And this is also passing 1. The default is event. Let's assume we only wrote increment. It will be passing event. But since we put another value here, it's going to pass this 5 as the value of this value. Abina. I come again. When you write a function name like this, that function automatically has events on it, and you can receive it. Do we get that part?
Yes.
So let's now assume that this function needs to pass another value aside event. How do we go about it? Because if I come here and I say, let's say I want to pass Taye, then I say console log event.target.value. It will not work because in this case now, this Taye becomes the value of this event. Do you understand?
Yes.
This Taye becomes the value of this event, and this is a string, so it doesn't have .target.value on it. I will just say console log Taye. Sorry, console log event so that you understand. You see what we have there? So now you see it's logging Taye to the console. It's not logging or it's not logging the event object to the console. That means once you put anything here, whatever you put here will be sent as the value of this. But if there's nothing there, if it's just the function name, it has events on it. Hope you understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Can we proceed?
Yes.
Okay. So let's now assume you need to send more than one. Let's say you still want to get events and you want to get Taye also. So I want to get events and at the same time I want to get this Taye. So what I can do is this. You put a value here. You can call it anything. Whatever you put here stands for events. Whatever you put here stands for events. You can now pass this value to this place. Do you understand? You can write it.
Put on there.
Yes.
Stand for event. Is that what you said?
Yes. Whatever you put here stands for event. If I put A here, this A stands for event, and I can pass the events to this place now. So this needs to receive two arguments now. The first is this. The second can be, let's say, name. So this A is sent as the value of event, and this Taye is sent as the value of name. Do you get it?
Okay.
So let me console log the two of them. Name. So now I'm logging the two to the console. Can you see the event and can you see the Taye? This is the event object and this is the Taye. If I want to get what is inside that, I can now say event.target.value. So that gets whatever is inside this place. Show your.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's now assume maybe I don't want the whole object, the whole event object to come here. I can do something like this. I can say a.target.value. So we are getting a. This A stands for event, but I'm only setting the .target.value to this place. So this now, what we have here now is whatever the user types inside this input. Do you understand?
Sorry, come again.
This A is the event, right?
Yes.
So we are now saying
Yes.
a.target.value help us to send the value as the value of this event. So event will no longer be an object. Event will just be whatever is inside this input. You know, if you want to say,
okay.
So we're only sending, we are not sending the whole event object now. We are only sending the .target.value to this place. So you only see what you have there. Now, I explained something when we did JS. I said, please use what like events for this, or E. Don't just use anything. So, of course, this is not standing for the whole event. Now, this is only standing for the value. So, I can call it value. Do you get it?
Yes.
This is not standing for the, it only stands for value. Any question before we leave this part and go to another thing?
Sir, please. Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm with you, sir.
Sir, that last part, sir. Sir, can you re-explain it, sir?
Which part, sir?
I'm sorry, sir.
Which part, sir?
Yeah. No. This part that you said that console log value
Okay.
from a name.
Okay. Now, this is the event object. We are passing it here. We are getting it here. We are getting it here. Here, we are saying, help us to pull out the .target.value. Help us to pull it out and send it as the first argument to get input. Do you understand?
Okay.
So it's going to send it as the value of this value. we are not sending the whole event object. Event is an object. If, let's say we are sending event here like this, it means we are sending the whole event. We are getting a whole object here. We are sending the whole objects as the value of this event. Do you understand? This is the event object. We are passing it to this place, and this will now send it to this place. So on getting the object here, we can pull out the dot target dot value. We can pull out the dot target dot value. We've pulled it out. But it's also possible, maybe you don't want everything here. Maybe you can choose to just send dot target dot value here. So you can choose to send just the dot target dot value here, so that this is not the whole event object. You know, whatever you send here will be received here, right? Are you following?
Yes.
So here we are only sending we are only sending the dot target dot value. So this can now receive just the value.
Okay.
You can now do whatever you want to do with it here. So today we're going to continue from where we stopped in our last class. We stopped at props. So let's look at props demo. Let's continue. Let me close. Should I close this? What? Okay, for now, I will delete all of these things, all of them. Then I will delete this. Okay, this. So in our last class, we created a component. This component is receiving two props. So let's bring in the component here. Display name. Then we can send your props down. You can say the name is here. And the age is, let's say 10. Okay. So we are sending it down to this component, right? So it's going to display it here. My name is Taye, I'm 10 years old. So here's the results on the browser. Let's now do more interesting things. I want to send down this state to this component. So instead of this being 10, we want it to be whatever the value of num is. So in this case, instead of passing it as a string, we pass it down like this. Do you understand it? So whatever the value of num.
No, I don't understand this.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't understand this.
Do you understand this part? Alison?
Me too.
Do you understand this part? This is where we stopped in our last class.
Okay. I think what happened was the last class. I think I could not watch it to the end. Maybe if I visit it, I'll grab all this.
Okay. So we're passing these values from this place to this place, and we are receiving it here. So that's to display it here. So we want to make this age to be dynamic. So whatever the value of num is, we want to pass it down as the value of age. So this is 5 now. Num. So it's going to pick this value of num. To pick this num and assign it to age. It's a pick num like this, and it will assign it to age. So that inside this component, age will be 5. I am 5 years old. Now, the good part of that is that if this num should change, this will automatically pick it up. Let's come here and create a function to change it. Let's say add num. So we want to add, whenever we click on a button, we want to add 5 to this age. So let's get the button together. So we can say add num. So on click, add num. So when we click on this button, it's going to trigger this function called addNum. And we're going to say setNum. For now, we'll still be doing it like this, num plus 5. This is not the best way to do it, but for now, let's stick to this. As we move on, we're going to make it better. So when I click on this button, it's going to call on function addNum, and addNum is going to add 5 to num. And the good news is that whenever this changes, this component will pick it up immediately. It will pick it up, and such that for that reason, the changes will reflect here immediately. The changes will reflect here immediately. So let's proceed. If I click on it, you see the components, the child component is picking it up immediately. So if this value should change, where is it? If this value should change here, inside this component, all the children components, let's say we have more than one, all of them will pick it up immediately. Do we get it? Okay. Now, let's proceed on pause. Let's now assume that inside this component, I want to change this age. Inside this child component, remember, this child component is not the owner of this age; it's receiving it as props, right?
Yes.
It's not the owner of this age. This age belongs to this app.js. But let's say you want to change it also inside this component. So let's see how to go about that. First, I want us to be patient there. This part will look a bit confusing. I want our completion. So I can say child change num. Change num. So what we want to do is when we click on this button, child change num, we want to change this value of num. But because it is not the owner of that num, it cannot change it. I come again. Because it's not the owner of this age, it's not the owner, it's only receiving it as props. For that reason, it can't change it. So note something, the owner of a state is the one that can change the value of that state. This is that? Okay, the owner of a state is the one that can change the value of that state. This num belongs to this app.js, and that's what we are passing down. Do you understand it? That's what you are passing down as age.
Yes.
For that reason, if for any reason you need to change the value of this age, the request needs to go back to the component that owns it. Only that component can change it. So what I want to do now is that when I click on this button inside this component, it will come to this component and change the value of this num to something else. I come again. When we click on this button, we click on this inside this component, but the changes will occur in this app.js. That's because this component owns this value. It owns the value here. So let's do that together. So when you click on this, you want to make the request here. So what you're going to do is we're going to create a function here. We can call it maybe change num. So let's say this function, let's say what it's going to do is it will let's say subtract 3 from num. So this is what we want to do. Remember, if you need to change num, you can only do that using this set num. That's why we are calling on this set num. Yeah, are we following? So we will now find a way of passing this function down, so that when you click on this button here, this button will be calling on that function. Hope you understand what we're about to do now. We find a way of passing this function down, this function, so that when we click on this button here, the function in app.js will be triggered. Do we get it?
Yes.
Okay. That's because this component cannot change the value of this age because it doesn't belong to the component. Okay. So what you're going to do is we pass this function down as props also. You pass it down. So you can call it any name. I can call it my func. But it's a common practice that you use the same name anyway. But I'm not using the same name so that you don't get confused. So what you are doing here is you are passing this function down as my func. Hope you understand.
Yes.
My func equals to this function. So we can now go to the child component now and receive it as props. So coming here, we can say my func.
My func.
Yeah, so we can now say on click of this button, call on my func. Hope you understand it. So now when we click on this button, this will call on my func. My func will call on change num, and change num will help us to change the value of num. And of course, if num should change, this component will receive it immediately and it will display it also, it will update itself. Show you why. So now, child change num will subtract 3 from it. You see, it's subtracting 3. This we had. Question on this.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm with
Yeah.
you.
So the question I want to ask is, sir, normally you can only pass props from the parent component to the child component.
Yes.
So and so we cannot pass prop from the child component to the parent component. But now, so in this aspect now, so how is it not possible that we are passing a prop in form of to the child component, and the child component was able to make a change from his own side now, and the parent component, so how is that possible?
The reason is because the parent owns the function also. The idea of props is that whenever a prop changes, a prop is actually, most times, props are usually states in their parents. Let me give an example. Example is this. This is actually a state in the parent, but the child is receiving it as props.
Sir.
Props. These props, the props A, they are usually, most props are usually states within their parents. And the parent, the owner of a state, must be the one to change it. Must be the one. So the reason this child can change it is because it's also receiving the function to change it. You are passing this also down as props. You can pass function as props. You can pass object as props. You can pass virtually any data type down as props. So this function that is changing it is present in the parent. What the child is just doing is the child is making a request. When you click on this button, the child is making a request to the parent, telling the parent that I want you to help me change this. So the parent is the one that is doing the changing, not the child. The child is only making a request to the parent so that the parent can do the changes. Do you understand?
Okay. So I understand it now.
Okay, sir. So this is making a request. When you click on this button, it's going to trigger this function. This function is within the parent as change num, and this can now make use of it. So let's stop here tonight. Assignment. Okay. What I want us to do for me is this. Let's assume we are done with the first assignment now. We have done the correction. But I think only Nathan Timos has submitted so far. So what I want you to do for me is this. I want you to create 2 components for me. 2 components. So you will call the first one, let me create 2 components. I can call the first one results dot JS. And I call the second one maybe my input dot JS. So we have two components now. So let me remove everything in my app.js for now. I'm making it empty. So inside this result.js, of course, you need to bring in your React. Inside this place, const. Inside this place, you want to return this. Just return a div. So return a div like this. Then export default results. So you're exporting it out. Inside this place, import React from React. Then const my inputs. So bring into inputs. So let me give this a placeholder. Let's say num1. Placeholder num2. This is a div here. So bring the two of them to this app.js. I've done most of the work for us now. Bring in my inputs first. You know we have two inputs inside the my inputs, have we?
Yes, boss.
Oh, I didn't export this. Okay, so we can come here now and import it here. Okay. Then so this will display the two inputs and this will display that div. Hope you are following.
Yes, boss.
This will display the two inputs and this will display the div. Okay. So here's the results. These are the two inputs. But you know, the reason we are not saying anything in the div is because it is empty. When a div is empty, nothing will be displayed. Now, this is our task. Let's add a button. Let's add a button. I'll put the button inside the input here. I can say multiply. So your task is that when you click on the button inside this place, it will multiply whatever is there with whatever is there and place the result inside this div. Do we get it? I'll come again. When you click on this button, yeah, it will multiply whatever is there with whatever is there and place the result inside this div. Now, this is what you should not do. Don't change the structure of my application. What I mean is this. I place this one here and I place this one here. Leave them there. One. Don't bring my inputs here. Don't bring in my input component. Don't bring it to this place. And don't bring the result component to this place. I come again. Don't bring result component to this place. And don't bring my input component to this place. Can you guys what you're doing now?
Yes, sir.
What I'm saying is this. Don't come here and do something like this. My inputs. Don't do something like this. Now you have 4 inputs. It means you have to remove this one from this place now so that it becomes just 2. Now, you have the same results. But I don't want this. Leave the two of them here like this. So leave these two here the way they are. But what I want you to do is when you click on this button, it will multiply this with this. Then it will show the results inside this div. You're going to use the knowledge of your state and props, know how to pass. You're going to look at how to pass your props around, where should your state be, and all of those things. Thank you very much. So if by tomorrow, if majority of us are here to complete my calculator assignments, there will be no class tomorrow. There will be. But if we've completed that, then I'll give us, we'll do the solution. We'll come tomorrow and do the solution together. Then I'll give us another task to do. Thank you so much. Have a lovely night rest.
And you too, sir.
So,
Sir,
okay, sir.
sir, please can you help to send the video, sir, so that we can go through it?
Okay, I will send it. I'll send it after this.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.